Dear friends, welcome again at LITECITY, the YouTube channel which helps you in your preparation related with NET English. We are at present running through our MCQ marathon where we posit 5 questions to test your knowledge about great works and writers of 20th century. So here comes the first question of today's edition. Lee Langley, the British novelist born in Calcutta, became famous with the Indian trilogy, a valuable account of the clash and the blend of European and Indian worldviews and sensibilities. It's a very famous trilogy, and the name of the trilogy itself is the Indian trilogy. Now, which among these options is not a part of this acclaimed trilogy? Okay, our options are Changes of Address, published in 1987, Persistent Rumors, published in 1992, A House in Pondicherry, published in 1995, and the last one is From the Broken Tree, which was published back in 1979. Out of these four, the one novel which is not in this trilogy, dear friend, the right answer here is From the Broken Tree. Apart from this novel, these three novels are part of the Indian trilogy of very well received works by Europeans. Okay. On our second question, the Rabbit Tetralogy, which is a sequence of novels, four novels, and it comprises novels like Rabbit Run, which is the first part of this series, published in 1960, Rabbit Redux, 1971, if you prefer the French pronunciation, Rabbit Rede. Then Rabbit is Rich, published after gap of 10 years, 1981, and Rabbit at Rest, 1990. So almost you can say every 10 years the writer has published one novel. It chronicles the life of, it is the name of the protagonist, Harry Rabbit Angstrom, from his adolescence to the middle age. Now you have to tell the novelist of this highly popular series. Let me tell you side by side, two of these novels won Pulitzer Prize, Rabbit is Rich and Rabbit at Rest, and it's, we can say, a very great work. It basically presents these 30-40 years and the development of the American society, ecosystem and the environment, and side by side it is a very wonderful journey. So our options are, first option is John Updike, second one is Paul Scott, the third one is Patrick O'Brien, and the last one is Lawrence Durrell. Dear friends, the interesting fact here to note is that all these writers have written at least a quartet or even a series of more than 4 novels. If we talk about Lawrence Durrell first, he was born in India and he is basically known for the Alexandria Quartet. If you want to note it down, please note it. The Alexandria Quartet, very important from our examination point of view. And in this, the first 3 books present 3 perspectives on a single set of events, and the characters are in Alexandria, Egypt, before and during the Second World War. And the 4th book is set 6 years later, and the name of the most famous among these books is Just Time. If we talk about Patrick O'Brien, Patrick O'Brien is author of Aubrey Maturin series. It is basically sea novels, and it is set during the Napoleonic Wars, centered on the friendship of English naval captain Jack Aubrey and Irish captain Stephen Maturin. There are more than or maybe exact 20 novels. Master and the Commander, the first novel, is the very famous. Paul Scott, you must have heard his name. Paul Scott is the writer of Raj Quartet, once again series of 4 novels which record the encounter between East and West through the experience of a dozen people caught up in the upheavals of the Second World War. And the right answer, that is John Updike, the American writer who has written this famous The Rabbit Tetralogy. Our third question, dear friend, is The Handmaid's Tale, which is an acclaimed dystopian novel by the Canadian author Margaret Atwood. Very, very popular, critically acclaimed work. It's a work which you should study deeply because questions are bound to come from such works. And it is set in a New England in the near future, and it posits a Christian fundamentalist theocratic regime in the former US, and it arose as a response to a fertility crisis. Now you have to tell the narrator of this novel. Who is the narrator of this novel? Margaret Atwood is the writer, and it is written from a feminist point of view and beautifully present the, we can say, the dread of the future. And the options are Offred, one of the main characters of the novel, then Moira, then we have Auckland, and last one is Serena Joy. Now Serena Joy, she is wife of Fred. She is wife of Fred. Fred, who is basically, we can say, he is the owner of the protagonist of Fred. Glenn is one of co-worker in this particular regime. Moira is a friend who has escaped the establishment, and Offred, which basically means of Fred. She is possessed by a friend. She is the protagonist. Now the basically whole of the story is narrated by Offred. Okay, which critic originally used the term Kailyard school, and it is basically used in a pejorative way, attacking the sentimentality and banal characterization of presentations of Scottish village life in works of writers like J.M. Barrie, S.R. Crockett, etc. There was a phase just before the advent of 20th century when writers like J.M. Barrie and S.R. Crockett were trying to exploit the Scottish landscape and full of sentimentality for their land. Later it was basically attacked, and the term Kailyard school was used to make fun of these writers. Now, who was the first critic to use this term in this context? We have writers we have options like Muriel Spark. She herself is a Scottish writer. Hugh MacDiarmid, one of the principal forces behind the Scottish Renaissance, which is in the second and third decade of the 20th century. J.H. Miller, a very prominent Scottish critic, or Edwin Morgan, who is a Scottish poet and translator associated with the Scottish Renaissance and widely recognized as one of the foremost Scottish poet of the 20th century. Okay, the answer is J.H. Miller, who first used this term Kailyard school in regard to these writers and their attempt to glorify the Scottish past. Our last question, dear friend, for the day is, in the novel Kangaroo by D.H. Lawrence, which he wrote very swiftly while visiting Australia, and the term kangaroo here refers to, first is the code name of Benjamin Cooley, who is the charismatic leader of the Diggers, who is a fascist political group. Second is code name of that particular fascist group, the Diggers. Third one is code name for Richard Somers, who is the protagonist of the novel. He is an English writer staying in Australia for a brief period. Or code name for Somers' German wife Harriet, who had a brief encounter with these fascist political group, and this novel present Lawrence's individual experience which he witnessed during the Second World War and First World War, and they are very poignantly and poetically presented in this particular novel. And the answer for this particular question is Kangaroo refers to Benjamin Cooley, the charismatic leader of the Diggers, and because of his charismatic personality, this particular English writer Richard Somers is attracted towards his, we can say, fascist activities and later got entangled. Okay, dear friends, that's all for the day. I hope you are enjoying these questions. They are enhancing your knowledge. They are giving you some important factual knowledge regarding 20th century. Keep supporting, keep watching. Thank you, dear friends.